When we talked on, was it Thursday? No, Friday. We talked on Friday. We had no idea that this was coming down. Maybe it was Thursday we talked. But we talked about, and my question to you was, what is the Supreme Court going, from your memory, what are they going through now as far as the deliberations and all of the conversation? And then I think a little bit after we decided that you had a chance to come on this morning, the ruling came down. When you saw it, what were your thoughts?
Well, let me go back and say, you and I actually talked on Friday. And
it was on Friday.
Within an hour or so, Alex called and said, well, the Supreme Court handed down its ruling today. So unusual, but a big case like this, occasionally they would do a Friday hand down. But yeah, studying the opinion, to put a caveat to it, I'll go ahead and say that the majority seems to have it right. Now, and I probably, if I were still there, probably would have gone with the majority. But I say that without the benefit of being there and studying all the briefs and the give and take with the justices and talking about the case. But it seems that the majority got it right on saying that and the issue was, back in 1992 when the initiative was passed, Mississippi had 5 congressional districts, and all the language on getting the signatures on the petition relate to getting signatures from all 5 congressional districts. And according to the language, no more than 1/5 of the signatures may come from each congressional district, adding up to, of course, 100%, 20% from each district. Mm-hmm. And then when Mississippi lost its congressional seat after the 2000 census, then you're trying to compute how many signatures to get based on 4 congressional districts and not 5.
I understand it's an elective office, but you had a lot of people who were saying that the state Supreme Court took away the will of 70, 75. It was a moving target as far as how many people. But how difficult it is for you who've been there to try to get this across to the people. Wait a minute, we're not basing this on the popularity of or the lack of popularity of any given topic. We're going to rule on the merits of the law itself, and nothing else shall take precedent. How difficult is that for them to make that point to the people of this state who just went to the polls and voted for this?
It can be difficult, but Justice Coleman, who wrote for the majority, pointed that out, said we're not looking at the results of what happened. We're not trying to destroy the will of the people, but we have to look at the Constitution, interpret the Constitution as written, not expand it. And the clear language is that by interpreting what a congressional district is, and the majority defines a congressional district as being a certain territory for federal election purposes for congressmen. And so clearly there are only 4 congressional districts now and not 5. And contrary to the argument made by those trying to uphold the initiative, you can't have 2 sets, according to the majority, you can't have 2 sets of congressional districts, one for election of congressmen and the other one for everything else.
Former Justice George Carlson, let me ask you, in your mind, what does this do to the ones that are set in law now? We're talking about voter ID and some of the other things that are there. Will they stay as it is unless they are challenged? Or what happens with that?
In my opinion, yes. You have to have the Supreme Court acts only on what it has before it. Certainly that issue was not before the court, and the court wisely stayed away from it. They didn't address it at all on voter ID or eminent domain or any of those other initiatives that have already passed, and that is a battle for another day if someone chooses to fight it.
Yeah. I would imagine that's a long and lengthy and maybe costly, too, because you just can't go straight to the state Supreme Court. You got to go through the adjudication process.
Exactly. So,
Um,
but
yeah.
again, go ahead.
No. When you start looking at that, it could be you're a lot better off getting behind something that the legislature puts forth if they do this coming up in the 2022 session, or maybe even in a special session. But the word on the streets is that they're going to go in and maybe do a special session, a possibility to take care of some of the, to head off some of these possible lawsuits. Your thoughts?
I think so, and because clearly, and sometimes the Supreme Court will write for the benefit of the legislature, and I
Mm-hmm.
think clearly this was the case here. And on more than one occasion, in the majority opinion, clearly the Supreme Court is frustrated with the failure of the legislature to act over the last 20 years, and I think the opinion mentions that on 7 or 8 occasions, the legislature has attempted to do something to correct the inconsistency in the wording of the constitutional provision and the statutes, and have failed to do so. It has not even made it out of committee on any of those occasions.
I know that there were so many people talking about filing other litigation to stop this as far as some of the hometowns who did not want it. There were some people trying to be creative and thinking about different zoning laws that they could do to head this thing off. It was going to be a litigation mess one way or the other. Nobody's going to make money on it except the lawyers and the pot dealers. But after all of this, it's just wiping the slate clean and starting over.
Yeah, on the marijuana initiative, no doubt about it, and they have to go back. And then, as we all know, there are others in the mill that were getting ready to come together to try to get on the ballot using this method, and now that's going to be put on hold, I'm sure.
Number one would be the Medicaid expansion. That one we have people thinking about bringing the trust fund for the Wildlife Association on. That was another one. And, of course, the guy we had on the air, the Initiative 77, was the Dr. David Allen from Moss Point. He was also going to try to get his initiative done. So it's a whole new ballgame. I would imagine there's a lot of sigh of relief from hometowns across the state who didn't want this thing, number one. And number two, possibly even the Mississippi Department of Health breathing a sigh of relief also.
Yeah, absolutely. They would be the overseer.
You got it. Judge, it's always good.